You want to start with the DeSantis, Musk, the mustard, Musk, Doge.
Yeah, how about this? Phil, have this ready. This is K3. We'll go right in Tony Bruno's wheelhouse of Florida as we now have a new rivalry that has emerged.
Mustard.
Against Musk. Clip K3, this is Ron DeSantis saying that Elon Musk and Doge fought the swamp, but the swamp won.
Yes. Inflation is a tax. When your money becomes less valuable, that's no different an outcome than if Congress were to simply just directly tax you. It's less transparent, it's more indirect, but it's having the same exact impact. And so when they do deficit spending of $2 trillion, and they say, well, you know, we don't want to raise taxes, and I'm not arguing for that either. I'm arguing for lowering spending. But just understand, that $2 trillion deficit is a tax on you. It works its way through the economy. There's no free lunch, and that's what ends up happening. And it's a little frustrating. You know, Elon Musk went into this DOGE effort. He was getting lampooned. I mean, like, they're firebombing his Tesla dealerships. Media is smearing him relentlessly. His businesses suffered, all this stuff, because he basically said, look, we can't keep doing this, and we need to moderate and reduce the amount of money that the federal government is spending. And yet, we have a Republican Congress, and to this day, we're in the end of May, past Memorial Day, and not 1 cent in DOGE cuts have been implemented by the Congress. That's one of the reasons why we need a balanced budget amendment to the U.S. Constitution. It's another reason why we need term limits for members of Congress. But I think what you've seen with how, and I kind of said this early on, that Doge and Elon were on a collision course with the swamp. And the question is, what would happen? And I don't think there's any question that Doge fought the swamp, and so far the swamp has won.
You know, I think there's two things here, and both can be accurate. He's not wrong, I think, in anything that he said. But if Elon Musk, the wealthiest man in civilization, and Donald Trump cannot get these Doge discoveries passed through Congress to stop all of this, well, you can only do so much, right? Like we saw, I think it was a graphic on Fox News maybe 2 weeks ago, Dawn and Tony, with Republican senators and congressmen and women that were against codifying the USAID discoveries and the Doge cuts, so to speak. And Dave McCormick of Pennsylvania was one of them on that list. So you can only go so far. I don't think DeSantis is wrong, but it makes you wonder if Elon Musk can't get it done. And I think somebody tweeted Elon this, and Elon responded on X saying, I tried. Then you know, nothing can be drained, I guess.
Well, you know, Elon didn't have the power to actually make cuts.
Correct.
He had power to have people who worked at the Treasury Department, big balls, and I wonder if big balls is still working right now.
Yeah,
or whether he's been cut.
Yeah, exactly.
These people all work for the Treasury Department. So if, you know, all they can do is recommend the cuts and point out all the waste. And then as Governor DeSantis said, Congress has to act. And so here's where we are. So everybody thinking that everything's been cut, you know, and then the Harvard stuff's going on. It's all about cutting. But to me, DeSantis is right. What I love about DeSantis, not only does he want, you know, no tax on tips, he's trying to get rid of real estate taxes here in Florida. And that is huge because people who moved out, people who've lived here forever, you know, bought a house for $30,000 and now their house is worth $1 million because it's in a neighborhood where they're building all these big new houses. They're going to have to pay taxes based on what, you know, real estate is worth. And that's not right. You can't do that. Once you buy something, he uses the analogy. When you go into a Best Buy and you buy a big screen TV, you pay the tax once. They don't tax you every year on a purchase. But when you buy a house, you get taxed every year. So that's one of the things he's looking into. And that's why he's the best governor in America, while Gavin Newsom's taking credit for the PCH being reopened, you know, and by the way, everything around it is all still burned down, but they opened the Pacific Coast Highway months after the fires, and he's bragging about that.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Edward Korestein, he's still listed. He's a college student on the East Coast,
But he's also listed at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA. And so I don't think he has the other DOGE position anymore, but he is still listed at CISA.
Edward Korstein is Big Balls?
Yes.
Okay.
A 19-year-old.
Okay.
Brilliant college student who is still a full-time college student.
Now,
by the way.
you had McCormick on yesterday, correct?
Yes.
Did he talk about the USAID and DOGE? Did you guys go down that road at all?
I didn't because he's in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
So I'll ask him about all of that. And we talked about, obviously, the Senate takes up the one big, beautiful bill. But there was a lot to talk about because he and his wife, Dina, are in the Middle East. So there's a lot there.
So is the DOGE thing just dead now at this point?
No.
I mean, have we basically just been told, okay, here's what it is, but we can't do anything about it without the votes?
Yes.
That's kind of where we are, right?
DOGE is not dead. So DOGE is a department of government efficiency that still exists.
Right.
And so basically it's like this. DOGE was in charge of, and it continues to be in charge of, looking for waste, fraud, abuse.
Identifying it.
So they're like the investigative reporter.
Right.
They shine the light on it. They say, here are the findings, and then they give the tangible evidence within their investigation.
Because it's going to be very sad if this doesn't get passed through whatever proper protocol and channels when it gets to that point. Because I think I saw DOGE had a 73% favorability rating with Americans. Mm-hmm. This is one of the things that a majority on both sides want.
Yes.
And then we've got these losers in the swamp that don't want the slush funds to dry up. That is going to be maddening.
And you're going to see.
And the problem is both sides, I'm sorry, Don, both sides know that cuts are going to hurt their particular pet projects in all the states, whether it's Pennsylvania, New Jersey, no matter what. So they don't want. Both sides don't want these cuts. They can pretend they do because we've had people investigate the government. The government, we had the media that used to care about what the government was doing with our money. The media no longer cares about that. But the bottom line is we have government agencies that are supposed to take care of where the money goes. They're all corrupt too. So how do you get to the bottom of this?
Yeah.
Well, you continue to do exactly what we're talking about. The transparency is critical. And by the way, let us not forget, we've talked about this before, the original person who wanted this, who created this actual department, even though it wasn't called this, was Barack Obama as president. He wanted this, and his fellow Democrats and swamp Republicans, I suppose, did not let it happen. So
some of the guys for that podcast, what is it called, Greg? It's
Pod Save America.
Pod Save America were like kicking themselves in the butt on one of their episodes a few months ago, saying, man, we had this idea right there and we just never acted on it. Apparently when you try to act on it, it's still a tough uphill battle.
Real quick here, just a developing story on DOGE. A federal judge did grant the Department of Government Efficiency conditional access to that sensitive U.S. Treasury Department, the systems. And remember, this has been widely debated. So I just wanted to give you that headline this morning.
Okay.
Dawn reported this in the 7 o'clock news that Elon Musk on CBS Sunday Morning said that the big, beautiful bill undermines the work of the DOGE team. This is that clip. Roll this.
So, I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the DOGE team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big, beautiful bill came along. I mean, everything he's done on DOGE gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful. But I don't.
But it can't be both. But it can't be both, I guess.
So cute.
I said this when we talk about the military defense budget. I'm fine if that is because if that's a necessity because the military was depleted under Biden or because you're doing things to protect the country. And I'm not talking about going to war, and I hate the whole Golden Dome thing, but if you're doing if this money is going to protect our borders from foreign invaders and drone attacks and military, this, that, or the other thing, I'm totally fine with that. But as somebody, I'm very similar to Rand Paul when it comes to conservatism on financial issues. You can't just say, okay, we're going to save all this money with DOGE, and then we're going to just pump it out and then some plus in other avenues.
So
that's like me paying off my Capital One card of $3,000, and then I go to my wife and I say, hey, I'm going to go to Golf Galaxy now and spend $4,000 on golf clubs.
But that answers your question then. Is Doge dead? Yes. Yes, it is, because this big, beautiful bill wipes it out. The end.
Well,
This is why I can't stand both parties, because both parties are like, we need to cut spending, except we need to increase spending where we want to increase spending.
Well, you mentioned Rand Paul. He put out that post on Sunday.
Yeah, you saw
the
that.
The debate is about the debt crisis that faces the country, and will anyone be brave enough to stand athwart the tsunami of debt before it drowns us all?
Mm-hmm.
That from Rand
Nope.
Paul.
Yep. Rand Paul doesn't want to spend $3 on a cup of coffee.
Nope. And so the House kind of, I think they caved to Trump. Remember last Wednesday? It was 1 week ago today. And remember he went in there, right? And
Yeah.
I always picture like he goes in, he says very flattering things, then he leaves the room, and all of his whatever team is like, he could primary you. And I think they blinked and they caved because they went like, hey, Senate, good luck with that. That's what I really think. But I think this thing it'll morph, and I don't think it will look as it does today when the Senate gets through it.
I hope you're right.
And by the way, now at least the Tesla slashings of cars and burning of the dealership has stopped now. So is the Elon Musk now getting on the? And now people are going to like Elon Musk again because he's done with Doge and didn't think it did anything. Is he going to be a hero again, or is he still always going to be a villain?